Hello, everybody. This is a little extra video to introduce you to the instructor who's going to be starting next week. Officially, Monday the 8th is the start of our course. And you'll be hearing more details as we go along through the video. I'd like to introduce you to Joe Tice. Now, Joe has taught in our program before, several years ago, and we're really happy to have him back. So Joe, I'm going to get him to kind of introduce himself, and maybe you can tell us, Joe, a little bit of your background, where you come from, that sort of thing.
Perfect. Thanks, Mark. Again, my name is Joe Tice. I'm from the Ojibwe from the Garden River First Nation, which is right by Sault Ste. Marie. Some of you may have been there. I've taught in the Grand Erie District School Board, which is near Brantford, right near one of the largest reserves in Canada, First Nations in Canada by Six Nations. I've taught down here for about 23 years. As Mark mentioned, I also have had the opportunity to teach a few courses with Brock in different programs, and all including the Indigenous education field. A few years ago, I did manage to teach a phys ed class with a cohort from your area as well. So I got to meet some people from up your way. And as well, way back in the day, about 100 years ago, I did play some hockey and some fastball up in Thunder Bay area tournaments and Long Lac. I've been to hockey schools in Couchiching. So I have had the opportunity to travel a bit in Northern Ontario. Well, you're part of Northern Ontario anyway.
Yeah, so you've been around. Now,
well, way back in the younger days.
Oh, okay. Do you still play a little bit of hockey?
Every once in a while. It's getting harder and harder to tie on the skates, but always try and do that. More into golf, more into the leisurely sports nowadays.
Now, a little bird told me that not only have you traveled around for these things, but that you have some family connections to professional hockey. Is that correct?
Yes. Growing up, I had two favorite uncles who I followed around because they're great in hockey and baseball. And one uncle was Ted Nolan. So I grew up with Ted, obviously followed his career very closely. And in the past, I've had him come and speak to the classes I've done at high school and for Brock. So I am in negotiations with him right now to hopefully join us for our the last class when we're speaking about Indigenous students in particular. And he gives a really good presentation on like how to motivate, what he finds effective in motivating our youngsters.
We can always use a little bit of motivation.
Yeah, well, Coach of the Year, he knows how to do that first, and he's a lot of experience, and he's still speaking to tons of groups around the country about not just motivating athletes, but like motivating employees, management, just basically how to run your business better as well. So he's in big demand right now, especially if you've seen he had a recent video on TSN called The Unwanted Visitor. And he talked a lot about his career and coaching up to just now. And right now, I think his main job right now is he's a full-time grandfather.
Right. Now, is he partly Native? Is that different sides of your family? How does that work?
It's my mom's brother. He's full Ojibwe from Garden River, just like me.
I did not know that.
Yep.
Wow. Now you were. I had a question for you that came up when you've heard him speak about motivation in different kinds of settings. Are there applications for us in this program? Like, would being a student apply to some of the things he's talked about for motivation?
The one thing Ted always talks when we talk about kids and students, stuff like that, is building that relationship with your students and with your players, and knowing that they're all different, they're all individuals. Not the same approach is not going to work with everybody. And that's something I'm trying to work with our teachers here in Grand Erie District School Board, saying Yes, the math and the reading and the writing is important, but if you really want to connect with your engage your Indigenous students and all students, matter of fact, get to know them.
Mm-hmm.
What motivates them? What makes them tick? And you're going to get a lot more product out of them as far as what you're expecting as a teacher. I don't want to give away too, because that's part of my I think one of the lessons is
Oh,
about that. So I don't want to give too much away right now.
right. That's good.
And the course is done. Bye.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's really interesting because that leads to the whole COVID thing that we've all been dealing with. You
Mm-hmm.
with your board and everything,
Yeah.
and how do you see? Do you have any ideas how that can work by distance? Like, what are you looking for in the connection with students? What do you expect from them? What will you provide? That sort of thing, as far as the connection.
And if we talk to Marg about the challenges with doing this kind of teaching, we've experienced the same thing here in Six Nations with our kids who are staying home because of COVID and connecting them with very poor internet service. Even down here in Southern Ontario, it's extremely poor in the rural areas. And I find the teachers that are most successful, and it's hard now too, because it's such a long day now being in front of the screen or being in the same class all day. It's those ones who make that extra effort to connect with them, regardless of the method, calling them, texting them, emailing them, just making sure they're staying as on board as they can, because if the internet's not working and that's your method of learning, it's going to be very challenging and very frustrating for students. So those teachers who are I guess most successful are making those connections regardless of how they do it. I was telling Mark the other day that people are driving around delivering work to people's homes. The Six Nations is a huge reserve. It's a big checkerboard of a reserve, long straight roads, and those schools on the res and those schools off reserve are making a big effort to try and keep our students connected. I'm not going to say it's 100% effective, but I think at this point, every student counts.
Yes. Wow. There was something that flew through my head there. I wanted to say about connections. I can't remember what it was now. Oh, I know. You said that you would be sending out an email to the class.
Yes, bright and early tomorrow morning. I'm going to wake up bright and early, and well, maybe not bright and early Saturday, but I do want to send an email that's going to outline the first day for sure of what's going to happen and how I plan the remaining 5 classes going. My plan right now is to, because again, I teach all day and I don't get home till 4:30.
Mm-hmm.
The plan right now is I got to make some changes to our course outline. Monday and Thursday nights from, I'm thinking 6:30 to 9:30. I'll finalize that in your email to make sure that we're on board with the same time.
Now, before anybody out there panics, we should describe how these are going to take place. Is it going to be Zoom that you're using? Or do you know yet?
If you've been using Zoom up to now, I'll try Zoom, but I've been teaching all year using Microsoft Teams.
Okay.
Maybe we can take a little survey on the email.
Oh, that's a good, and that's a good initial communication, because students need to respond, and it's really going to make a difference in what you do.
Yep.
Okay.
And again, it doesn't take long to send a link out, and
yeah,
and we're start 6:30 off, and it has been going before. Every session will be recorded. It will be also put in on the YouTube channel that Mark told me about, and I'll put them in D2L as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll send a link out from the YouTube where we kind of store them. Yeah.
Okay. Yep. And the assignments and PowerPoints that I present to you will also be available. I'll put in the detail, and I may just email them to you individually as well, just to give
Yeah,
every possible opportunity for you to receive the information.
right. So the session, and the reason why I was saying don't panic for people, we realize that this is not the ideal time frame for everybody. And if
Yeah.
it's number one, the best course of action as for students is to join the group online, right? To be in that
Oh,
live, so you can talk back and forth.
yeah.
But if you
And
cannot
don't worry
do
about
that,
being late.
don't worry about being late. That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
No guilt.
If you
Um,
can't get on 7 or 7:30 or 8, jump on, and
and we know
we'll.
sometimes that you start at 5 or 10 minutes before, and it takes a half hour to connect. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay, so no guilt about if you have to be late.
Oh, for
Um,
sure.
it's way to your advantage to be able to participate. Um, if you can't, you've got the recordings that, so I think we kind of get the best of both worlds there.
Yeah. And the way I like, although it's a university course and I'm a university instructor, I go back to because I've taught high school for 23 years, and my approach to teaching high school is very much interactive. I don't like lecturing. I don't like just throwing PowerPoints up and talking. I think the best way of learning is that communication back and forth, where I'm not so much know everything, and for sure I don't. But not know, but sharing what each of us think, and especially a lot of the topics we'll be discussing in 3 weeks. There is going to be a lot of room for what you think about how you, for example, one part's going to be talking about truth and reconciliation, and how far we've come on it. Some people might think we've done nothing. Some people say, hey, we have made some progress. So that's an example of where I'm looking for really for the class interaction there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, did you want to say anything more about, since this course is teaching in Indigenous students in the Ontario context? So when we think of the whole province, I think you mentioned earlier some changes that you see in education that are happening provincially.
Yeah.
What do you want to comment on that any further?
For sure. Each school board in Ontario has certain requirements there to meet as far as Indigenous education goes. Each has to have an Indigenous Education Advisory Committee, there to have an Indigenous lead, teacher consultant, which is that's my job right now in our board. And they're supposed to have each year they have what's called a board action plan, a BAP, where they're given funds, and from that fund, they're developing initiatives and programs that are supposed to benefit Indigenous education throughout the board, both elementary and secondary. So, for example, this year we made a huge step in our board in that we made every grade 11 English course focused on Native literature. The first year we've done that. There are some boards in Ontario that have done that previously, but our board made that commitment this year as part of our board action plan. So things like that, and it's growing, and our team is growing. We have Indigenous child and youth workers. We have Indigenous engagement and support teachers. We have Indigenous grad coaches, and that's been building up through years. It didn't happen overnight.
No. 1994 was the Royal Commission.
Yep.
It's taken, in my mind, it's now like 25 years.
Yes.
And I remember around 2000, your hopes get all raised, and then 10 years passes by and you don't see the changes.
Yep.
And now we're starting to see them after 24 years, 25 years.
And I do have some colleagues who, on occasion in our meetings, get frustrated with the slowness of these changes. And one of my main philosophies is you worry about things you can control. Okay, we can't worry about what other people are doing. We can't worry about what the board's going to do. We put our thoughts and ideas out there, and we see what we can do. And if it doesn't work, then we start over again. We try some more.
Mm-hmm.
And not what we're ideally, and I said this at a meeting today, I said, ideally, I want to get to the point where Indigenous education gets to the point where you don't need people like me anymore, where we don't have to push to have our education,
Mm-hmm.
Indigenous education thoughts and principles in the classroom, where everybody's doing it naturally already. So just keep, people hate me down here for saying this, but it's like chipping at an iceberg, just a little bit at a time. Just keep pecking away,
Right.
and someday.
I see it almost snowballing at this point, because like 5 years ago, we had teachers who were maybe open, and that work was happening at the board level, but there were very few resources, authentic resources. And it's 3 years ago, I think, that I was first part of a Métis group of teachers that were brought together to create elementary curriculum units for teachers, like especially in, I think, grade 3, 6, and 8 in the elementary, or 7. And I got a chance to work on units that will actually be used in the classroom. And teachers didn't have that sort of thing before. And that's going to start another cycle of gathering ground, eh?
Yep. And that's part, as the Indigenous lead teacher this year, that's part of my job, is finding resources for our staff who don't know. And every time I find something, I ship it out, I email it to everybody, making sure they have no reason not to know. And actually, we just had a after school session, just focusing on resources, Indigenous education resources that are on our board website, different websites throughout the province, through the country that have valuable information. So it's getting harder and harder to say we can't teach this because we don't have the resources. It's getting, teachers can't use that excuse anymore.
Well, did you want to, you've already said about the times for classes, and they'll be in the email, and we'll post those as well. I don't think there's anything else urgent before you start.
No, I just want to emphasize that if you can join class, please do. Again, the more the merrier. I love discussions. I love one of my go-to in my again with grade 10 boys health, which I taught for 20 years, was making everybody contribute something. I would make them change all their desks, put into a big circle in our classroom, and pass around. Never had a feather with me, but I always passed around something that everybody had a chance to say their mind. So I really enjoy that interaction with our students. So I'm hoping everybody here can join as much as they can.
Well, I'm certainly looking forward to you being here again, part of our program. I'm sure that it's going to be an enjoyable experience. And yeah, again, I just want to encourage people to participate as much as you can. You get out of it what you put into it. And you're maybe going to meet a celebrity here during one of the classes. So
you might if everybody's good.
You want to have your face on screen for that. So you can record it, or we can record it for. That's what we'll do. If it turns out the session will be recorded anyway.
Anyways,
But if you would like to see your face memorialized on there with somebody who's well known, that might be a little extra incentive to get to that class. Unfortunately, it's the last class, so you better make the decision before.
That's exactly. Well, he also has a famous son. He has a famous son as well. I might be able to talk about joining. Okay. So
okay, so we'll say goodbye now then, and this video will be posted probably tonight.
Perfect. So look forward to seeing you Monday night.
Okay. I'm stopping the recording. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Mark.